Welcome to the Vintage Hollywood Archive. Love, betrayal, and divorce. Lee Majors might be an extraordinary Hollywood star that helped push the development of sci-fi genre in Hollywood. But there is nothing extraordinary about his personal life. Lee extraordinarily didn't plan on being an actor, but when he decided it was what he wanted to do, he gave it his all without room for much else. This cost the talented actor, and he lost more than one marriage to his unrelenting work ethic, including the one to the lovely Charlie Angel star, Farrah Fawcett. This is the tragic love story of Lee Majors and Farrah Fawcett. Make sure to watch the video until the end, and if you're new here, don't forget to join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Vintage Hollywood Archive channel. It doesn't look like Lee Majors learned from how his career cost him a stable love life in the early days of his career, of maybe he has learned. The strapping actor is currently married for close to 3 decades to his 4th wife, Faith Majors. In an interview, Lee called his marriage to her a record in Hollywood. The marriage is certainly not the longest in Hollywood, but it is up there. The $6 Million Man actor as of 2019 was working on a UK kids animation series. The series, Thunderbirds or Go, took him back to his period as the $6 Million Man. In the show, Lee played the role of the father of the Tracy family who was lost in space. The family would rescue him and bring him back. Lee had a swell time working on the show. His character, Jeff Tracy, was introduced at the end of the 3rd season, with the actor hoping it would be renewed for a 4th, which would give him more time to connect with his audience. Unfortunately, the show was canceled in the 3rd season. Now, the actor has to deal with the regrets of throwing himself completely to his work, and we aren't talking about the marriage now, but his health. I look back now and think I wish I'd used my stuntman a little more, the legendary TV star said. He starred in major action roles that required physicality, but being an athletic man and a dedicated actor, he did all his stunts. Now, the actor has to deal with pains, aches, and trembling knees. Lee should have remembered he once suffered a terrible back injury when he was in college and should have managed his body well. His injuries weren't the only thing he is looking back on. One of the things he also looked back on was his relationship with Farrah Fawcett. The two were one of Hollywood's lovable couples when they were together. They were both incredibly beautiful beings. Lee with his broad chest and muscular physique, and Farrah with her sensual curves and lush gold locks. The couple appeared on different magazine pages, with one of the most iconic ones being the July 1977 cover of People, where they both were jogging. The two spent a total of 12 years together and were not the happy ever after they thought they would have. We would cover the reason later. But now, let's talk about how the star felt when he heard the once love of his life was diagnosed with anal cancer. Before the time he heard the news, he and Farrah were completely out of each other's life. You would not even know they were formally married unless you picked up one of the many magazines that had them smiling together on its pages. It was complete radio silence. So, Lee didn't hear the news specially. He heard it at the same time the public did. When he heard this, Lee didn't know how to connect with Farrah. It had been so long since the two talked, and Lee was not sure if he had the right to contact the star himself. So he did the next best thing. He started contacting the people around Farrah, checking up on her, and sending messages to Farrah through these people. But there is no mention he sent messages through Farrah's partner, Ryan O'Neal, who was Lee's friend. But we are certain he wouldn't. After all, Ryan returned to Lee's life and charmed his wife. More on this later. So, the exchange between the Majors and Farrah continued, with Farrah also returning Majors' messages through the same friends. This continued until Farrah's birthday, when Lee finally worked up the nerve to talk to Farrah via the phone. Sources said the two spoke for close to an hour, and at some point the conversation got emotional. The two got closure from the conversation they had. We hope this was the case a few days later. Farrah died. Lee got his closure, but lost a woman he once loved. His angel on earth was gone forever. Before he became Lee Majors, he was Harvey Lee Yeary III, born on April 23, 1939, in Wyandotte, Michigan. He was an orphan right from when he was a toddler, as his father died in a factory accident before he was born. His mother was killed by a drunk driver when she waited by the road to cross the street as she headed to work. The people he originally thought were his parents were his relatives, and if not that he found out by himself, his adopted parents were willing to spare him the devastation that came with such news. He wasn't broken when he found out too. Rather, he was determined to give his adopted parents the kind of life that would make them not regret that they took him in. His initial pathway to this was sports, and Lee was a natural athlete. He was so talented that he got into Indiana University with a football scholarship. Later transferred to Eastern Kentucky State College, which is now known as Eastern Kentucky University. Lee continued his dedication to sports until he had a terrible back injury. His pathway to sporting success was burning before his eyes. For a while, Majors couldn't walk as the injury left him temporarily paralyzed. However, he soon recovered from the injury, at least physically. The mental stress of temporarily losing his leg made football look unappealing to him. So, Majors focused on his education and graduated with a physical education degree. Only that, stardom was still on his mind, and he had decided now he would get it: acting. But Majors didn't have acting skills. Also, there was the St. Louis Cardinals football team offer. He didn't let his lack of skill and the offer stop him as he went along with his wife, Kathy Robinson, who he married when he was in school to Los Angeles, California. While he pursued his dreams, he worked as a park manager in California's Department of Recreation and Parks. Unfortunately, as he worked to get into Hollywood, he was drifting further from his wife. Their love began to diminish, and it ended with Kathy returning to Kentucky with their son when the two divorced. Majors began to get a part in films and TV shows, then finally he struck gold. He got married to Farrah Fawcett and got a part in the TV movie The $6 Million Man, which later became a series because of how successful it was. But did you know, Majors almost didn't get the part? When he was offered the role of Steve Austin, the lead in The $6 Million Man, he felt the show would be campy. However, the maker of the series wasn't ready to let the leading man go just yet. They listened to Lee's suggestions, which eventually helped the show resonate more with the audience. He requested that they change the title, which was originally going to be Cyborg, but he didn't end there. He told the maker to let his character not be too robotic and that he should have his humanity. Majors also suggested that he did not kill the villains in the films, but beat them up. Then he demanded that his character should have some romance in his life to keep the show fresh. Sadly, while he had creative suggestions that made his iconic TV show better, he didn't have one for his marriage to Farrah Fawcett. Although, reports claim he did try to make it work. Lee and Farrah met through Lee's publicist. They went on a coffee date and wound up married. Their marriage coincided with the filming of The $6 Million Man, which made Lee absent from home often. However, during that time, his wife was always at home waiting. She wasn't a star yet at the time, but a model. So, Lee worked, and she was usually around when Lee came around. It didn't matter how long Lee was gone, Farrah waited. But Fawcett stopped being at home for Lee when he got back. Her career had taken off as she was cast in a hit series, Charlie's Angels. She and Lee had demanding work engagements. At some point in their marriage, they only saw each other 2 weeks in 1 year. Working 14 hours a day didn't leave much room for anything else. The two were married to their respective careers, and in the end, it cost them their marriage. He even blamed the paparazzi for stealing the remaining free time he could have spent with his wife, as they could be pretty nosy. Or at least, that was what he told everyone. What happened was far more dramatic than that. True, the career played a major part, but Lee's absenteeism from his wife began before he got the Steve Austin role. When they first got married, Majors would leave Farrah in the room and go to the bar. Before leaving, he would tell Fawcett to get naked and wait for him, but he would never go back. This was how Majors was, but his success only amplified this side of him. But maybe his wife would have continued to be with him if she hadn't formed an electric connection with another man. This man, unlike Lee, had a waning career, which meant there was more time on his hands. This man was Ryan O'Neal, Lee's friend, and it was Lee who brought the man right into his own house. Lee and Ryan had been friends at the early stages of their careers, but work caused them to drift. They reconnected when Lee came to visit his daughter, Tatum, an actress on the set of her movie. O'Neal and Majors got to the level where O'Neal started to get invites to the Majors household. The first time Ryan saw the actress, he was electrified by not only her beauty, but her innocent warmth. There's no pretense or cattiness about her whatsoever. She's vibrant and wholesome, refreshing in this town. That day made quite an impact on Ryan, as he remembered every little detail. The man remembered they ate fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and gravy after playing racquetball. He also recalled she burned her hand when she was preparing cappuccino. However, O'Neal claimed that there was nothing to what he thought of Farrah at the time. But we are certain he can't deny that sparks were flying in the air when they met, and that those sparks were mutual. After that first time at their home, it was Farrah who asked O'Neal to come the next day. Ryan was to travel to Las Vegas to watch a boxing match, but Farrah convinced him to stay and that he should watch the match with her and Lee. O'Neal soon became an integral part of the family. He learned about the dynamics of Major's relationship with Farrah. According to O'Neal, the couple were so sure that their relationship was done that he was the one trying to prove to them that they were perfect together. Work soon called Majors to Canada, and because he didn't want his wife to feel lonely, he made a mistake. He did something that would nail the final coffin in his relationship with Fawcett. Lee told O'Neal to go and be with his wife and take her to dinner so she wouldn't be lonely. Well, O'Neal resisted Major's request. He felt a connection with the man's wife and her for him. He didn't want to go to dinner with her, but he wanted to go out with her. So, he wanted her to come and see Ry Cooder or the J.J. Cale concert with him, as she was a fan. It was a perfect gambit. He called Farrah, and she was expecting his call, but she wasn't going to jump at the opportunity without checking with her husband. Major wasn't pleased with the invite. He admitted that he was the one that told Ryan to call, and that he didn't want Farrah to go. It was too late. Feelings had flown already between his wife and his friend. Lee did try to delay the inevitable. He started calling Lee and hanging up, but one time, he left a message that Ryan should leave his wife alone. Ryan didn't listen, and when he couldn't take it anymore, he confessed his love for Farrah. It was out of character for Ryan, but he couldn't resist the woman's charm and elegance. They hadn't even begun to go out at this time. The unfortunate part was Lee had become free at this point, as his series had been canceled due to production costs. But he was too late to save his marriage. Fawcett had even become more popular than him, but he didn't mind that. He only wanted her, but the heart wants what the heart wants, and Farrah's heart no longer wanted Majors. Around the time the divorce was finalized, she was already moved in with Ryan. They moved on. Lee went ahead and married his third wife, a former Playboy model who would have 3 kids with him. However, they divorced, and for him, the 4th time would be the charm as he married Faith Cross. He continued to get more roles during this period. He acted in another iconic TV series, The Fall Guy. Farrah, on the other hand, never remarried. She entered into a relationship with O'Neal, but they weren't ready to define it by marriage. Farrah and I have no plans to marry, nor do we have plans to separate, Ryan said. While Farrah was with Lee, she was alone, but there wasn't any incident of Lee cheating or unnecessary drama. She found out that Ryan's charm was a double-edged sword. He was a playboy and was like that with other women. Farrah caught him with another woman in their house. They broke up after that incident. Although before then, the two of them were at each other's throats like cat and dog. Their issues had even begun to affect their son. They couldn't stay away from each other for long. Ryan and Farrah reconnected with each other when Ryan had cancer and she helped care for him. Ryan got cured, but Farrah was not so lucky. When she had cancer, the disease would claim her life. The Charlie's Angel actress died just a few hours before her wedding to Ryan. All through their relationship together, Farrah refused all attempts for Ryan to marry her. When he eventually convinced her that they should get married, she passed away. Sad, isn't it? Lee Majors made the biggest mistake when he entrusted his wife to Ryan O'Neal. Here's a video about Bob Hope's secret double life.